Hello my friends, this is Getty with Georgia Firing Line, and I would like to answer a question today for those of you swapping to a new gun or maybe putting a new trigger in your gun, and that's how do you become acclimated with it. So what we're going to focus on today is the prep and the press, because really that's where the discomfort for a lot of folks really lives. So for this video, I'm shooting my Smith & Wesson M&P again, but this time I've installed an Apex trigger in it. The trigger is significantly shorter travel. The weight is a little bit lighter, but that's really not the issue. The difference here is that the factory trigger on the M&P does have a significant amount of take up as per a factory trigger is going to have. The Apex tremendously dumps all of that useless take up to where now my prep is simply disengaging the trigger safety, and there's maybe a millimeter worth of prep, and then you're on the sear and the gun's ready to pop. So what we're going to show today is I'm going to show you guys a couple of micro drills to help you gain a little bit of comfort, a little bit of trust in that trigger and in your coordination and organization of how you prep the trigger in motion. And then we're going to have Mike do it because he's waiting on his M&P in the gunsmith shop right now. So I like to relate this topic back to something that a lot of us can understand. When I was in high school and shortly thereafter, I drove a 98 Mustang Cobra. That was my favorite car I've ever owned. And then there was a day when I had to replace my clutch, and I went ahead and installed a stage 1 racing clutch in it. The difference between that factory clutch and the stage 1 is that my engagement spot got super short. So I was a very upset 18-year-old when I could no longer drive my car. I was stalling up and down my neighborhood constantly. And what it took was some purposeful practice back in my driveway and in the cul-de-sac where we live at, getting the car moving and relearning where that clutch's sweet spot is. So I'm going to equate that prep to the sweet spot in your clutch, for those of you who knows how to drive a manual. So first off, we're going to work on it dry. So we're going to take the gun, we're going to verify there's no magazine in the gun, and I'm going to rack the slide 3 times to verify that there's nothing in the chamber. I'm also, because I'm paranoid, I'm going to give it one more physical inspection, and I can see that we are indeed empty. So the first thing, we can do this from compression. We can do this from a very relaxed state. You don't have to have the gun extended all the time. So all I'm going to do is right here, I'm going to put my finger on the trigger and I'm going to deactivate the trigger safety by pressing on the trigger slightly. Now I'm going to really feel how much prep this trigger has. So right about here, I'm truly prepped. I can feel the hard wall of the sear and I know it's about to pop just like that. So this is the beginning of it. So as I prep the trigger, finger goes on, I find that point, and I'm really going to engage and I'm going to feel what my hand is doing. I can feel the finger touching on the trigger and how that correlates with the rest of my feeling, and now I can find it very repeatedly. So after you give that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 reps, however many that was, I wasn't counting, you know that you're ready to move on to the next step. The next step, we're going to address the reset. So we know that when the finger's on the trigger and the gun fires, after the gun cycles, if I pin my finger down and I release it very slowly, I can hear or feel a reset. So if we're pinning the trigger to the rear, you are wasting time for those of you who are performance-based shooters. If you're trying to shoot the gun quickly, quit worrying about the reset. It doesn't matter. Because what's happening is as soon as the gun breaks, I'm getting right back to that prep. So here's how we practice this. I'm going to hold the trigger down to the rear. I'm going to hard cycle the slide, and by the time the slide goes back forward, I should be prepped again. It may take a couple of reps to really feel this, but this one's all about coordination. There's my prep. Break, prep. Break, prep. So I'm feeling where the trigger resets and where my prep is on the subsequent shot. What that translates into is my doubles, triples, bill drills, etc. Anytime that I'm shooting multiple and I'm tracking my dot, I don't have to think, I'm worrying about what I'm feeling in the gun hand and in the gun side. So everything up until this point, you can do at home in the comfort of your air conditioning and everything's gonna be fine. So the next step is, how do we come to the range and practice this live? We're gonna start with one shot. We're gonna have the gun fully extended, grips on, ready to go, and we're gonna have the trigger prepped. As soon as the gun pops for our one shot, I'm gonna reset the trigger in motion and be back on the prep, prepared for a second shot, but I'm not gonna shoot a second shot. But when we start really getting into shooting performance and shooting very quickly, people get nervous about running quickly. And here's how you find the comfort. So as long as your dot, as long as your sighting system is telling you that you're all safe and downrange, let it rip.
I want to go fast.
So first thing we have to do is load and make ready. And we are set and ready to go. So on my target downrange, I'm going to use the entire alpha box. I just need my dot to be in the alpha, and I'm at about 5 yards. So how this whole thing works, I'm going to build my grips here at compression, and I'm really going to have a good grip built. I'm going to get the gun out there, prepping the trigger in motion. This can be at your comfort. And now that my dot is on target, I'm going to fire one and prep it immediately as the gun goes off. Good. Now I can verify based on my feeling. It doesn't mean I give it more. That means that if I'm on the trigger and I'm touching it, that I'm prepped and I'm ready to go for this particular gun. This mileage may vary depending on your gun. So let's do this a couple more times. So I'm going to extend the gun, prep the trigger in motion. I'm going to fire one, and I'm going to be prepped to fire a second. Good. Cool. Once you've done this a couple of times and you feel your comfort level growing, it's time to do two now. So we're going to extend the gun, prep the trigger in motion, we're going to fire two, and we're going to be prepped for the third shot. Good. Okay, I was late to the prep on the third. I was so committed to firing two that I forgot to prep it all the way back out. So now I'm going to make that correction based on how it felt. That felt better. Okay, now I'm not going to dilly as much getting the gun out. I want to push to get the gun moving quickly. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now I've done several reps of extending the gun and firing two. Now we're going to do three. I'm going to extend the gun and fire three, be prepped to fire the fourth, and then the next step is a bill drill. We're going to extend the gun and fire six. So we're going to get three now. Good. Extend the gun and fire three. Good. The other thing that this is testing kind of inadvertently is my grip. I'm keeping my support hand grip very tautly dialed in so the gun's not moving much. My dot's returning exactly where it should, and the whole thing becomes very predictive. So now we're going to do a couple of bill drills, which is extend the gun and fire six from the compressed position. At this point, if you're still not totally dialed in on the trigger, you can shoot the bill from the fully extended position if you choose to. But I'm going to do it from compression so I can test my support hand and keeping everything tight. So I'm going to extend the gun and fire six. That felt really good. That felt really good. I've also just remembered I have a timer in my pocket that I haven't even turned on yet. So let's use that. So I'm going to extend the gun and fire 6 rounds, and I'm going to make an effort to have the trigger prepped on the way out. Good. And that was in a 149 from compression. First shot was a 68, and there's some time in that. I can definitely get that down. We're looking at a 12, a 13, a 13, a 12, and a 15. So in one range session, and not a whole lot of rounds, I'm able to build a ton of familiarity with this new trigger system, and that in turn builds my confidence so I can prep the trigger sooner and feel rock solid and confident in doing so. So up next, we're gonna have Mike step in, and he's gonna get to know this trigger because he's still waiting on his. All right, so now we're here with Mike. He's gonna be shooting my M&P because he's waiting on his trigger in the gunsmith shop right now. So Mike, why don't you tell people a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so hey guys, I'm Mike. If you haven't seen me before or don't know who I am, I'm the econ guy here. I run our online sales. If you see us on Reddit, any of our weekly emails, I'm probably the guy that wrote it. Like Getty said, that's correct. I've got my M&P 2.0 in our gunsmith shop right now. We're getting a fresh Apex trigger installed in it. Do some dry firing on Gettys. I know that this little trigger bar is already, or trigger safety, excuse me, is already giving me a little bit of issue. So hopefully we can clean that up today, a little bit of trigger familiarization with the same trigger that's going to my gun.
So the first step is going to be to walk Mike through the same escalation that I just did. So the first one begins dry, and we're gonna get him comfortable with where the prep is. So go ahead and close your slide, and I want you to build your grips on the gun the way you want them at compression. Mike's been through applied pistol as well, so he's also installing some grip changes. We're gonna see how that shakes out for him. So once you're comfortable with the grip, I want you to set your vision on target where you want your red dot to appear.
Okay.
So I want you to extend the gun all the way out, go ahead. Okay, put your dot where you want it, put your finger on the trigger, and prep. Cool. So can you feel the motion in it?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Just barely. There's almost none. So the trigger safety gets taken up, and then you are on the sear. It's ready to go. So now that you're prepped, press it very carefully, and we get a click. Good. Okay, rack the slide, and run that several times for me. So just find the prep. So come off the trigger, find the prep, delay, press. So what we're doing is we're giving him a little bit of time to practice to where he can find the prep, so he can build the comfort in knowing where it is repeatedly. Okay, we'll go from there. So now we're gonna work from compression to extension, prepping the trigger in motion. This is something you've done with your staccato quite a bit, and really between these two triggers, they're very similar. So I want you to prep the trigger in motion and do not click it when it's all the way out. I want you to stay prepped.
All right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, so you're on your own cue. I'm not gonna give you an up or a buzzer or anything like that. Just get the gun moving and prep the trigger in motion. Take it away. Good. So when you get out there, I don't want you to click. You're gonna stay prepped.
Okay.
Good, there it is. Good. The other side effect of working your dry practice to the prep and not the press is we're avoiding the potential problem of becoming Pavlovian, to where every time the gun goes out, we're pressing on the trigger, and we just simply can't have that. So it's okay, as a matter of fact, I recommend working in some practice that you don't press the trigger on, especially for those of you who are defensive shooters. Okay, how do you feel?
I feel great. Honestly, I love this trigger. This is kind of awesome.
All right, gas it up. We're gonna go live now. So now we have the gun hot, it's ready to go. So we're gonna start with shooting one, but I want you to have the trigger prepped for a second shot.
Okay.
So, and again, I wanna be clear, if we send a second shot right here, as long as it's in the berm, we don't care. This is exploration, and we're learning where the prep and the break really live. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So go ahead and extend the gun. Okay, put your dot where you want it. Put your finger on the trigger and prep it. All right. Now, when you're ready, break the shot and go back to a prep. Okay, are you prepped?
I am.
Good. Okay, and finger off trigger and relax. So let's run that 3 or 4 times.
Cool.
So at your own pace, get the gun extended, prep the trigger, send one, and be prepped for a second.
Okay. It doesn't take anything to prep that thing.
Real quick. Okay, so hold real quick.
Okay.
So we've got one line break on the left-hand side, which Mike is a very proud accuracy shooter, so this is kind of rare for him. Did you see anything on that one?
Yeah, dot slash, and I just sent it.
Okay, cool.
I was trying to get it in the box before slashed all the way out, so I didn't have to do any sort of follow-up shenanigans.
Right on, because we're only shooting one.
Yeah.
So this is where paying attention to what the dot is doing, for those of you shooting a red dot, you can also practice tracking the dot with everything that you do. So, do you feel a little more comfortable with this now?
I do. Okay. I do. Definitely the lightness of the trigger is going to be interesting, but you know, that's why we're here. So.
Okay. So up next, we're going to have you extend the gun and fire 2.
Okay.
You're going to extend the gun and fire 2. Be prepped to fire a third.
Okay.
Okay, do you understand?
I do.
All right, on this one, I am going to give you a buzzer. So I want you to get the gun moving, and to be totally transparent, I don't care about the times right now. We're just using this as a go signal for him, but we will measure the metrics just so we know where we're at. All right, extend the gun and fire 2. Stand by. Good. 74, so 53 on the first and 21. Hey, you beat me on the first.
Hey.
So how did it feel?
That trigger is hilarious. So the reset, I mean, it's a non-existent reset, right? It's very 1911-ish. I know I'm talking specifically about this gun, right? But that's just what I'm relating it to because that's what I've got my baseline on. Very 1911, 2011-ish. The trigger breaks exactly when you think it would, basically as soon as you get on it, and it just immediately resets. So it's not like a modern gun, that's for sure, like you would buy off the shelf.
Okay, so based on your accuracy, what did you see?
So I dropped the dot in, it came right over top of the target like I wanted it to, dropped in center, squeezed the trigger, dot stayed right where I wanted it, so I sent the second shot because I was already prepped.
Good, okay. So at the end of every exercise, that's a good series of questions to ask yourself, or those of you who are coaches, you should be asking your student, what did you see, what did you feel? So because you can answer those questions, that tells me that you're also present.
Yep.
For people who aren't present, they won't be able to answer that. They're gonna say, oh, I didn't really see anything, or oh, it's so close, I didn't need to aim. And in reality, we know that that's kind of coping.
Yeah.
So let's do one more double,
okay.
And then we're gonna go right into triples.
Sounds good.
So go ahead and build the grip, get it exactly the way you want it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Stand by. All right.
I was on it too fast.
So we see the one outside. That would be a delta on an actual USPSA target. So what'd you see?
I dropped the dot in from obviously the right side and it slashed across the target. I sent the round too fast.
Okay. And then your second?
The second one was dead center of the target, as you can see. It's that upper right alpha in the target. So, I mean, I just kind of came across with it in a weird slash and sent the second shot. The second shot is actually where I wanted the first shot to go, but I was a little too quick on the trigger. Too soon, Junior! We already used that meme.
Yeah, we used it last week.
Oh well, there's another one.
Give me one more.
All right.
That was in a 45 and a 16.
Ooh.
45 and a 16. I think that's the best split I've seen out of you so far.
Yeah, that's my fastest split I ever shot.
Okay, so we're gonna extend the gun, prep the trigger in motion, fire 2.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Stand by. Now we're talking. And a 67. So now we have a Charlie on the left-hand side line break, and we have one in the center. That was in a 15 split with a 52 start. Give me one more.
Yep.
So support hand pressure needs to be dialed in early, and we have to keep it coherent all the way through. So you have stapled your support hand onto the gun. That's the visual I'm giving you here.
Yep.
Okay, does that make sense?
It does.
All right. Send the gun, fire 2. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Stand by. Better. 53 start, 15 split, total for a 68. That feels really good.
That does feel really good.
So go ahead and swap mags. All right, so up next, now we're gonna extend the gun and fire 3. So we're just adding a third shot. There shouldn't be a whole lot to change in this, but we're asking you to pay attention and stay present for one more shot. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, so you're gonna extend the gun, prep the trigger in motion, and fire 3. You're gonna fire 3. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Stand by. There we go. In a 106, so we had a 56, we had a 15, and we had a 35. So the 35 is what?
Trigger freeze.
Trigger freeze, right? So we know that normally trigger freeze comes from an overstimulation of the gun side, right? Normally it's too much grip, but sometimes it can be affected by the whole arm itself. So here's what I want you to do. Extend the gun all the way out. Okay, get good grips on it.
Yep.
And I want you to relax the gun side.
Okay.
Even more.
Okay.
I'm checking his hand like it's a steak. All right, so this should be relaxed.
Yep.
Turn it on the support hand side, finger on the trigger. Prep, give me 3. There we go. I'm happy with that. It didn't pick up, but did you feel the difference?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, so I felt the difference, but I didn't feel like I had the control here, and we can see that I shot a high Charlie, a right Charlie, and a right alpha.
Yep.
Gun went past the path of least resistance, so I need a little bit more though.
But did you see it?
I did.
Good. If you can see it, you can get ahead of it. So keep the gun side just slightly relaxed. Let the little piggy find his way home. Yeah, just put Mike's trigger.
Now that's a good one.
So now we're gonna move into the confirmation stage. So you're gonna extend the gun and fire 6 rounds. Do you have 6 rounds in the gun?
Yeah, I think I have exactly 6.
So we're gonna extend the gun and fire 6. Now, I'm gonna add a little bit of a thing to this. I'm gonna release you from the shackles of your accuracy.
Okay.
So Alpha and Charlie are the same point value.
Okay.
Alpha and Charlie are the same point value.
So just send.
I don't care if they're all alphas. It's wonderful, but I don't care.
Sure.
Okay? What we're focusing on here is his comfort and getting him to address the trigger with feeling. I want him to prep the trigger and press the trigger and feel connected to it the whole time. That's the objective. If we can bring the support hand along for the ride, that's just huge bonus points. Stand by. Okay? I can't count either, it's okay.
I guess there were 7 in the mag.
So let's look at the splits though. So we are 48, 32, 16, 18, 13, 15, 16. So towards the end, you started to find it.
Yeah.
Right? But we also see what happened was as the string of fire went on, support hand started slacking up and we started seeing it walk away.
Yeah.
So that tells me that for my work with Mike, this kind of is a cookie cutter. This tells me what we need to work on with him, which is no surprise, is going to be grip and a little bit of modulation depending on the task at hand. Mike's a great shooter. This is a pretty rudimentary skill that you can apply to any time that you change your gun. So if you own multiple guns, here's a way for you to get acclimated before you start carrying the new gun or anything like that. If you guys have any questions about how to run this at home, or if you come to the range and try it, feel free to reach out to us via social media or the link tree. We have tons of classes coming up here in the very near future. Please reach out to Ecom if you have any questions about the sales and stuff that we do. You'll be talking to Mike directly. Tell him he did a great job. Tell him his beard looks great. My name is Getty.
I'm Mike.
Y'all be safe.
Safe, guys.